Yeah, I have that 14 years of experience on MS SQL Server DB with various MNCs. So have some means I worked on Azure database administration side. So migration from the on-premise to SQL Server, I'm sorry, from on-premise to Azure, SQL DB and IaaS infrastructure as well. Yeah, that is, I know, so I have that and TSF script is, I'm familiar with it. So I want to be more into that Azure services like mm, Synapses and ADF Databricks. So those things I want to be learn to grow up my career.
Okay. Arun?
Hello. Yeah. Hi, Ganesh.
Yeah. Can you brief about yourself, Arun?
Yeah. So, yeah, my name is Arun, and I have like 4 years of experience totally into data analysis. The tools I work with are like mostly with Python and SQL and Power BI. Yeah, and mostly I did data modeling and data visualization.
Got it.
Yeah.
And Nambia?
Hi, good evening to all. Yeah, I have a 10 years of experience. I'm in SAP PI. So in my whatever the organization I'm working on that, I have a opportunity to work on this Azure data engineering also. So that's why I want to learn this one.
And Sheha?
Hi. So I don't have any experience with ADF or Azure side of things, but I have worked on on-prem server using SSIS packages and like SQL Server, Power BI, Excel. So I'm heavy on data analysis side, but the tools I've used so far are mainly SQL, Power BI, and Excel. And I also do some MDX, etc., because I have to work with the OLAP cubes and I have to import data from there. So I need to be, I need, now we are switching to Azure, so which is why I wanted to learn the ADF side of things mainly.
Okay. But yeah, Yogesh, another two persons supposed to join. They'll be joining another few minutes. Yeah, we can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'll share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. So welcome to this demo session for the Azure Data Engineer. I will walk you through my introduction first, and then we'll go through the summary of the course, what we will learn, and the various topics that we will cover in the course. So my name is Yogesh. I have like 16 years of strong IT experience and 8 years of which is into the big data technologies. Almost 5 to 6 years into the Azure cloud, uh, that is on the data platform mainly. I have strong experience into the various domains or the industries, that is mainly banking and finance, the automotive industry, the manufacturing industry, the healthcare or the pharma domain, telecom, and the e-learning domains. So I have worked on various wider industries with the big data technology experience. I have played like various roles, mainly the data platform technology architect on the Azure cloud. I have listed these various services like Microsoft Purview, which is the governance tool, then the Azure Data Factory ETL tool, the Azure Data Bricks for the data processing part, Azure Synapse Analytics, the streaming data that can be ingested, and real-time analytics can be done on the Azure Data Explorer ADX service. Then in terms of the CI/CD or the continuous integration and continuous deployment of these services is done through the Azure DevOps. And the strong experience is also into the automation side on the Azure, which involves the Azure PowerShell or the ARM templates. I have also played various roles like product manager, the Scrum Master role. So I have the experience into working in the agile methodology, how to build the product or the service related various what we can say the milestones, and then achieve those through the agile methodology. So and in terms of other Azure service experience, I have also worked on the Azure ML Studio, as I have data science experience as well as data analysis, the data engineering experience. So my work area was mainly to build the solution end-to-end data science or data analysis related solution onto the Azure cloud, which involves like starting from the gathering the data, cleaning the data, moving it to the Databricks for data science related work, and then moving that data to the Azure SQL DB or any other storage, and then again using that data for the reporting purpose on the Power BI or any other analytics tool or reporting tool. The other services, as we can see here, like Azure SQL DB, I have worked on the Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 or the storage account. For the encryption, I have worked on the Azure Key Vault, and the in the compute side, I have worked on the virtual machines, and I have also experience into the networking, how the VNets or subnets work, how the connectivity between the various VNets or subnets needs to be configured. So that practical experience I'm having. I will move to the what we will cover as part of the Azure Data Engineering. So basically the understanding of cloud services. So it was good to know like all of your experiences. So I got to know that few of you have already experienced into the cloud services. Few of you are already on the on-prem only and do not have any touch base with the cloud services. So it's easier for me to explain the cloud services first, what is the need of the cloud, and then like the various services that we have in Azure, we'll discuss those as well. So when we like talk about the data engineering part, the important thing to understand is the types of data that we will have and how we will process it, where we will store it, and how we will process and store that again. So that is the important step which is also covered in this course. And of course, the data storage side. So how the data will be stored, where it will be stored, which type of data need to be stored where. So that is important to understand in terms of the cloud technologies. Next is the data processing, so or transformation. So once you like ingest the data inside the cloud, how you will process that data, how you will transform that data, how which services you need to use. So that is the next step as part of this data engineering journey. And of course, like when you are storing the data, processing the data, how the access to the data need to be governed, how the security of the data to be taken into consideration, the encryption of the data, and also the role-based access control, like who should have which access. So all those things are also important as part of this journey. And one of the other thing is, after all the processing is implemented, the business will visualize that data. So we will also need the reporting tools for it. So the most like last part of this end-to-end cycle is the data visualization. So as part of this course, we will understand the basics of the cloud, types of the data, as I mentioned in the previous slide. The various steps that are required for the data engineering are the data ingestion, data processing, the storage, and the security. And which Microsoft services we will look at, it's basically the data platform services, which includes the Data Factory, Databricks, Synapse Analytics, Azure SQL DB, the Cosmos DB. So the various storage types which are part of the Azure cloud. So basically we'll start with the cloud concept. So anyone want to explain the requirement of cloud, why we need cloud and why we need to move from on-prem to cloud? What is the difference between on-prem and cloud?
Easy maintenance and cost cutting.
Yes, that is correct. So, for example, right now in an organization, let's say you have the any web application project. So you need to maintain the servers on-prem. Let's say you are also using the SQL server. You need to maintain the servers associated with that. On top of those servers, you need to also maintain the platform, meaning the installation of the server, SQL server, the license associated with that, and the cost associated with that. Also, the physical, all these physical servers you need to like maintain and monitor on regular basis. So the actual infrastructure to store those servers, the physical servers, the like electricity associated with that, the maintenance associated with that, all that you need to manage as a like as an organization. The whole responsibility lies with you. So that is one thing. So if you want to have, let's say, new project requirement where you need to have, let's say, 10 Windows machines and 10 Linux machines. So in that case, if you have to increase that, you will have to again increase the space to store those servers. Also, the installation and the cost associated with that. So the server is the, like we can say, the infrastructure as a service. That infrastructure is the first requirement. Second is the platform, meaning the installation of the operating systems as well as the, let's say, web server is there or the SQL database server is there. So that will be the second requirement. We'll come to SaaS later on, but like these are the main things that you need to manage and maintain at your own location. You need to increase or decrease it according to your requirement. But physically, actually increasing or decreasing is like maintaining those servers is not a good idea, or what we can say, it's like time consuming, or as well as the it will incur a lot of cost to you. So let's say after my project is done in 3 months, I don't need those 10 Windows servers as well as the 10 Linux machines. So what I will do with those servers? There is no option that, and if you try to sell those also, you will not get much cost of it. So all this maintenance of managing the servers, installations, cost, and the infrastructure is an overhead with the on-prem. So if we consider these as an opposite case in the cloud, it's similar to the getting the electricity subscription for your house. So whatever, how much you utilize your electricity for, let's say, the various the TV or the computer or the fridge in your home, you will pay for those only. So similarly, within the cloud, these things are managed by the cloud providers. You will get the infrastructure managed by these cloud providers, the platform, the license associated with it. So you just need to pay for the time that you use that service, and you will save the cost. Also, this time to spin up these many services is very small. So it will be like within few minutes you will have the Windows server ready, you will have the Linux machines ready. If you want to delete it, it will be again a few minutes of jobs or clicks to just decommission those services and save your cost. You do your work for, let's say, 2 months, delete those services. You will pay for only 2 months. You do not need to maintain all these servers and the infrastructure and the platform associated with it. So that is the importance of utilizing the cloud services. Any question on this? Okay, I'll move to the next one, that is software as a service. So, for example, the Outlook. So the whole software is built up by the cloud providers, and they will provide that as a service to you. So you do not need to even create or manage the whole software itself. For example, the Microsoft Outlook, where you can like have the multiple email IDs and you can communicate with the within the organization using this tool. So you do not own anything. You just create your own user IDs as per the organization requirement, and it is the whole the background thing, that is the infrastructure or the platform also along with the software is managed by the cloud service provider. So you just use it which is already built up by the cloud providers. You do not need to create anything. Just you need to manage that service based on your requirement. So basically, there are different types of the cloud. One is the public cloud, second is the private cloud, and third is the hybrid cloud. So where the private cloud will be used, for example, the organization, they do not want to make their data publicly available, meaning that they do not want to move the data outside of a particular region, or they want the whole control of the data. So what these service providers will do is they will provide they will build up the whole data center for this specific organization. All the servers and everything will be managed by the cloud provider for them. So it will be only used by that organization. So all the internal data of the organization will remain with them. The whole control will be with the organization about the data security. The drawback of this is they will have to purchase everything related to that, and they have this like high cost related to the private cloud. But the benefit of private cloud is the data security. So it depends on the organization or the industry. For example, the healthcare, if it is like a research related data which is very important, that needs to be stored on particular location, or particular government laws need to be followed to protect that data. In that case, the organization will choose this private cloud. They want to like secure their data. What is the benefit of having this again? Because this will be managed by the cloud provider. So you will access, the definition of the cloud is that you will access these services through internet. So what is the difference from on-prem to cloud is you will have all these services spin up or created through the internet only. You will access everything from internet. For on-prem, you need to actually go to that server and connect to that server, log in from that specific machine, navigate to that location and so the benefit of cloud is that you can access it from anywhere through the internet. Then next is the public cloud. So public cloud is like a general one where the all the organization data will be also available, where the organizations do not care about the data security. So in general, the most of the clouds will be public clouds. So where even if I register or you register and you get access to that, our everyone's data will be centrally available at the public domain. That will be secured, but it will be publicly accessible, meaning that uh, any intrusion systems they are trying to access your data, they can do that, but there are cloud security provided from the Azure side. And the difference is that this data center will be public, meaning that all the data will be centrally located. And in terms of the hybrid cloud, it will be mix of private cloud plus public cloud. So what organizations can do, they can keep some of the data on the like private cloud, which is they want to be secured, and they can move some of the data to the public cloud where they think that that is a public data and which do not have like security related issues. So that are the differences between these three cloud types actually. And mainly depending on the organization requirement, these combinations will be used. So if you see here for the private cloud, the data will not be shared with other uh, organizations. So it will be mainly owned by that specific organization. So who are the cloud providers? The dominant ones are the Microsoft Azure, the AWS, and Google. Why Microsoft Azure is more dominant is that the reason is the scalability at the enterprise level. So, and the like number of services, the integration between these various services, which is offered at the enterprise scale, meaning that you can have n number of services uh, created within like few minutes. The same capabilities are not in that extent available on the AWS or Google. So that is the main reason the Azure is the right now dominant, and it has like many features and the services available which can be used very easily. And the integration, the important part is the integration between these services. Any question on this? So I'll move to the next one, which is like what type of services are offered in the cloud. So for example, the compute, as I mentioned, the various types of machines that we need. So that is under the type of or part of compute services, we can say the virtual machines. So we can spin up like various kinds of Windows related machines, Linux related or Unix related. So depending on the our own need, we can create those machines. On the storage side, for example, we have the Azure storage account, the various types of databases that we have. For example, the Azure SQL database. Within the SQL database, again, there is another type which is called as managed SQL database. So that will be installed on the, it will be similar to the on-prem installation, but that will be on the Azure virtual machine. So that's the difference. And then there is one Azure SQL DB, which is kind of PaaS service. So you do not you do not need to maintain the services. Sorry, just a minute. So when you install it on the machine, you will also need to have the license of that. And when you use the Azure SQL as the standalone service, it will be managed by the Microsoft, the licensing part of it. So as we have seen the this part, platform as a service. So there we will have these differences actually. So when we use these PaaS services as it is, we will have the platform ready to use, and we just need to start the next level of implementation or directly start using those services. Then the next type of services we have is the web. So web application servers to like create or run the web applications. Then analytics related services we have. Data processing, that is Databricks or ADF is also there as an ETL tool. Then visualization tools like the Power BI. Then governance tool, which will govern the access of the various services within the cloud, that is Purview, which is a new tool from the Microsoft. So you can govern and control the access to the data within the organization. So we'll see when we will look at the Purview service in detail. So I'll move to the next slide, which is related to the types of data. So the main three types of the data are like structured data, which involves tables, Excel, CSV, or right now what all of you are using is the SQL DB, mainly on-prem SQL DB. So which has a structure actually, the columns and the rows. So that is called as structured data. Even in the Excel or CSV file, if you are storing the data for, let's say, customer ID is there, product ID is there, product uh, related, the transaction related information, all this data will be in the format of the structured data. So it will be columns and rows. So you can like access based on required filters and query the data. You get the results of the data. So the similar mapping, for example, in the cloud is the Azure SQL DB. So where you have the structured rows and columns of the data. Second type of the data is the unstructured data. So which is kind of raw data or text files. For example, you have given like reviews on the Amazon or any other website or on the Google for any other services or restaurants. So those will be kind of like whatever you have done as a small typo there. So those will be kind of unstructured data actually, that examples, whatever the comments you have given on any blogs or any post that you have. So those will be in terms of the unstructured data. Other formats or types we have is the images, videos. So this type of data you cannot store into the existing SQL Server DB or the existing storages that you have. and then you cannot process those also. So that is the second challenge with respect to the on-prem availability of these platforms. So you cannot store this in huge volume and also process it. So if you have seen in the AI, like we do the caption creation of the videos, identifying the summary of the video. So these AI related application processing you cannot do on the on-prem. For that, you will need like cloud related services to store it and then process it with respect to using the different analytical services provided in the cloud. So, so these unstructured data can be stored into the blob storage. So, which is nothing but the Azure storage account. Coming to the semi-structured data type, it involves like JSON, which is kind of nested information in terms of the tags. Like for example, customer will be one nested tag under which it will have the customer name, customer address, customer phone. So that kind of nested information similarly will be in the form of XML. So you cannot process this data or store this data uh, in like normal storage. You need specific kind of storage to it, and also the specific type of processing tools. So this can be stored into the Cosmos DB within Azure. Any question on the types of data? So this is important when you learn about the data engineering. First, you need to understand the types of data. So you may have like requirements depending on your project, like you may get various types of data. It can be the text files, it can be Excel, CSV, or it can be actual on-prem SQL server. So you need to understand the source and target. So that is the variety or types of the data that you need to take into consideration. So for example, you can, yeah.
Yeah, one doubt. Yeah, I hear Azure SQL DB like manager instance, whatever it may be in the Azure cloud. So those database data files, where resides it in? Is it uses blob storage or any other things? Any another storage?
No,
What is the storage for it?
it will be actual Azure storage managed by Microsoft in the backend.
Okay, they won't that won't use blob storage.
No, means blob
Yeah.
storage will be a separate service. Azure
Okay.
SQL DB, yeah, it will be similar to our own setup, but it is in the cloud, and in the backend it is managed. The compute as well as the storage will be managed by Microsoft.
Okay.
So when you try to spin up the Azure SQL DB, you will find the options of it like general purpose. So which will have like very small storage of 2 GB and like small compute associated with it. So when we do the similar setup, we can choose any configurations on-prem.
Okay.
And there are like other options also available, so which are called as tiers or uh, SKU actually. So you need to select from that
Okay.
based on your requirements. So you will get the required space associated with that. That could be like 250 GB, and they call it as DTU, database, some transport units for the processing.
Okay.
So that is measured in the DTUs actually. So that specific tier we need to select from the during the DB
The
creation.
DPUs and V core is the CPUs, I
Yeah,
think, right?
yeah, V
Yeah, that
cores
is
are
the
also,
CPU. That
yeah,
both are CPUs. That is not storage. DTU and V cores.
that is processing capability.
Yeah.
It is, yeah,
Okay.
data throughput unit actually. I remember now, throughput
Yep.
unit. So
Yeah.
meaning how fast the data will be processed if you
Yeah, it's
select that.
like yeah, process like on-prem. Here, either ETU, either vCore will use for the smaller scale. We have to be use the DTUs and vCores where we need to be stabilized, and for the processor purpose, it is because of for the cost purpose only. Change between the
Correct,
TD and
correct.
vCores.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Cost as
Yeah.
well as the storage and performance. So that will
Yeah.
also change. So if you choose the smaller one, you will get like less performance, less storage. So
Yeah, okay.
yeah, depending
Yeah,
on the need,
just
you need to.
only I want to know that what is the storage for that? That is there any difference between the blob storage between Azure storage? Either
Yes.
can we sit in these Azure SQL DB like I want to migrate from on-prem to managed instance like 2 TB of database. So do I need to choose blob storage either any like on-prem SSD will use, right? So those kind of any storage we will have in the separate in the Azure. That is one. Just wanted to know that. That is nothing.
Yeah, so that again depends upon your requirement. So if your need is that you have to use the Azure SQL DB, you can like copy that all data to Azure SQL DB. If you have the another requirement, you can copy that data onto the blob storage. So whatever the table data you have, you can copy it in the CSV format or Excel format or even JSON or XML. Those are also supported through ADF. So
Okay.
it is different for each connector type actually, and there are 100 plus connectors in the ADF. So they have given the matrix like what are the types supported, which file formats or data types are supported when you do the copy activities.
Okay.
So if your project requirement is first you need to copy that data to the blob storage, do some processing on that data using the Databricks, and then copy that data to Azure SQL DB, that could be also one of the case. So it purely depends on the requirement of the project. If you do not want to keep that data into the SQL DB, you can use blob storage, and you can access that again on the different Azure services depending on your need. The another option could be that like after you do this store it in the storage account, do processing on this, there could be also a requirement that you need to send this data back to on-prem also. So it totally depends on the project requirements, how you want to process the data, and like what will be the end-to-end life cycle or data cycle. So to know these things, actually these data types, understanding the types of data is important.
So on-prem server will definitely have, like, in most cases it will have a structured data. In that case, wouldn't it be like just Azure SQL DB would be the answer for that?
You can use storage, blob storage also, PostgreSQL DB is also there. So
Mm.
multiple options are there.
And
So
what's the difference between Postgres versus Azure SQL DB?
Postgre, I'll get more details about it, but yeah, different. I don't have the exact answer as of now, but the SQL DB will be kind of similar replica of what you have as an on-prem.
Yes, so what I'm trying to understand is, like, when you have already like structured data on your on-prem and you only work with structured data, then why would there be a need to adopt blob storage versus Azure SQL storage?
That depends on your requirement. So if you just, let's say what happens in the, let's say in the banking domain, you have your account statements created, right? Right now you are
Mm-hmm.
managing those account statements on-prem. So
Okay.
your account is, let's say, 5 years old. You don't
Mm.
need the old data. Let's say you do not want to access your account statement which is 4 years old or
Mm.
even like 1 year old. So
Mm.
in that case, there are two options in the blob storage, which is hot storage and which is
Oh,
the
okay. Cold
cold
storage, yeah.
storage. So what you will do is you will store that data. Bank knows that you may ask that data at any point of time, but it is not sure or not frequently accessed data. So that will
Mm-hmm.
be stored in the cold storage with very less or minimal charges.
Okay.
So, and hot will be the frequently accessed data. So that's the difference. And again, what is the project requirement based on that? Let's say you want to decommission your whole on-prem infrastructure and you just want to store or all your data to the cloud just as a backup. so that you do not need to maintain the on-prem servers, everything, the physical locations, the servers, and the electricity or the other security related cost. You just move that data to the cloud.
Mhm.
So it totally depends. So you might want to do some analytics on that. You can use the different analytical. The another thing is, if you have the like huge amount of data on prem, you do not have that much amount of compute capabilities for on-prem. You also, the another thing is, let's say you have uh, 2 petabytes of data as of now, and it is going to increase again. You need to vertically increase that storage for it. And also, so you need to increase the hardware for it. You need to again maintain that. So if the same thing you need in the cloud, you can immediately uh, like create the new service, the storage service, you can add that directly there within few minutes. So you do not need to maintain or manage that kind of infrastructure. And next thing is, if you have to process this huge amount of data, you need the high compute power, which can be available within the cloud only. You cannot process like huge amount of data for the on-prem.
That is understood. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the couple of things. That's the reason we need to migrate from the on-prem to the cloud.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then you have the multiple options also to convert that structured data into the semi-structured or vice versa, and you can do processing of the data. So multiple combinations of it are also available.
All right. So in case of Cosmos DB, it's a mix of both blob storage as well as Azure SQL DB.
Yeah, these APIs are there to process the semi-structured data as well as structured data.
Okay. Thank you.
So this as part of the data engineering, like the role of data engineer will mainly involve the, as I mentioned, there will be various types of data, on-prem data. The, the first is types of data and the sources of data. These are two important things. So based on that, you need to design the Azure services. Type of data and then sources of data. So for example, you are getting data from multiple sources. It could be on-prem SQL Server database. It could be on-prem file system where the CSV or Excel files are stored. That can happen in the organization. Let's say HR data is managed in Excel sheets as of now, and they want to move it to the cloud. So those will be stored in the on-prem file systems on the Windows machines. So you need to bring that data to the cloud. The on-prem PostgreSQL is also there on-prem. So then the mainframe database is there. So multiple on-prem databases will be there, or data stores will be there. And also the types of data will be different. Sometimes you might be getting a JSON response from any of the API calls on the on-prem applications that you are storing, and then you want to process it and understand what type of data it is, visualize that data or convert it into again to the structured data. So there could be n number of possibilities to copy the data from on-prem to the cloud, and from different data sources as well as different types of data. It could be CSV, Excel, .txt file, JSON, XML, SQL Server tables, or PostgreSQL or Oracle database is there, mainframe database is there. So if you have to do the same thing on the on-prem, you need to keep creating those types of storages for it, and the processing kind of thing for it as well, the compute. So you cannot keep adding those. Let's say I want Oracle database as well as the SQL Server database. I want the PostgreSQL as well. So all this data, you cannot keep creating multiple platforms and keep managing them on the on-prem. The same can be easily achieved within the cloud using the storage accounts or the different store databases available within the cloud. So to move this data from these various sources with different types of data, you need the Azure Data Factory as an ETL tool. So the purpose of using ADF is to extract all this information from the on-prem, load it to the Azure SQL DB. Just as an example I'm giving, it could be anything depending on the need, blob storage or the Cosmos DB. So it has like 100 plus connectors, actually 105 connectors are there. So you can use native connectors to, so just create a connection to your on-prem SQL server, select the tables that you want to copy, and same thing you can just run it in few minutes and your data will be moved to the SQL database. Or as an example, I'm just giving here, so it could be anything. And again, you want to refresh that data to the reporting tool, to the Power BI, you can do that through ADF as well. So there will be a possibility of using the Databricks service as well in between. So Databricks, again, you can, so within the data factory, you have the drag and drop options or the inbuilt functions. For example, join two CSV files, filter two CSV like records from the output of the join. So those are kind of drag and drop user friendly options are there. But if you want to customize your options or you want to do coding on it, you have to use the Databricks. So which has option to run like Python code, PySpark, Spark SQL, and Scala. So it will have the compute capabilities as well as these multiple uh, platform or language execution capabilities as well. So once you do the analysis within the Databricks, again, you can use ADF to move that data to any other service. Even you can orchestrate the job of the Databricks code from the Azure Data Factory. So you can have option to customize your code and you can manage the orchestration of the data through the ADF. So along with the ETL capabilities, ADF is also having the orchestration capability for various Azure services. Even there is Azure Function Service is there. So where you can write the customized code like Python, Java, or JavaScripting, and you can call that Azure function from ADF. Another option within the ADF you have is to trigger these pipelines. Once you have set up, let's say, this pipeline, you can schedule it, the trigger of the pipeline execution. Let's say daily you are getting new data into your on-prem sources and you want to push that data to the cloud again. So you can just once create that pipeline, schedule that, let's say daily 4 p.m. you are getting the new data, just schedule it automatically. ADF will run that job and push that data, whatever the processing pipeline that you create, and it will also show on the reporting side. So that are the capabilities that you have within the cloud. That comes as an ingestion and the processing part, and the movement also from on-prem to cloud or within the cloud also. Again, you will have options to move it, let's say in the Databricks also. And then there could be, as I mentioned, requirement to move everything, like after processing is completed, you want to move the results to the on-prem. That could be also the possibility. So that data movement, processing, ingestion can be done through ADF, or processing can also be done through the Databricks or Synapse Analytics. And then the visualization can be done through the Power BI reporting. So and then data security is important. So there are like options provided from Microsoft. One is the customer managed key encryption. So that is related to mostly secure your data using your own key. So you will have the full control to manage the security of your data. let's say you are storing your data within the Azure SQL database and you want to encrypt that data with your own key. So that option is provided from Microsoft. So it depends on the mostly, as I mentioned, in the healthcare or banking domain where the data need to be secured. So if the key is lost, whatever you are having or you are providing to the Azure SQL DB, data won't be accessible to you as well. So you need to manage that key associated with the your data store. It could be storage account, SQL DB, or even for ADF, we have the CMK. And then the monitoring part of it, like you need to monitor these pipelines on regular basis, how the data movement is happening. If anything is failing within the pipeline in production, you need to monitor those things. You can create the alert. So that is another feature that you have within the cloud to set up the alert so that it will trigger an email if pipeline is failing. So you will get that information. You can then look at the cause of it, you can fix it, and then it will continue. So all these features or functionalities are not available for on-prem. That's the reason, like all these compute, storage, processing capabilities, alerting capabilities, which are available within the cloud, are important. Any question on this? Hope this is clear on this part. So if you are planning for the certification, as I mentioned, the majority of the focus is on the storage side. How the, like what are the types of data, how it will be stored, and then the data processing. So most of the part of this exam is like within the storage and processing, and then the security option, the monitoring of the data, and then the performance in case if you have like very huge amount of data and the jobs are stuck, how you can improve the performance. As we have seen just now within for the Azure SQL database, the DTUs, how you need to change that configuration. Or if you are using the virtual machines, you can again easily change the configuration of the VM based on your jobs, and you can rerun those jobs as well. So within ADF, we have a component called as the self-hosted integration runtime. It is also having the SSSIS integration runtime. So as of now, whatever you are executing on-prem, the packages related to the SSSIS, those can be executed within the ADF as well. You just need to configure the packages. You need to do the setup in ADF, and you can run those packages in the cloud. That is just a lift and shift of it. So those various types of capabilities are also provided here.
So how do we understand, like, what is the best option to go for? Like, as you said, there is a lift and shift option available to conduct your SSIS packages. But at the same time, you can also set up an ADF and an Azure SQL DB and run those. So what I'm trying to understand is, like, how do you determine what to choose?
So it depends on, let's say you have hundreds of packages. It's better to use the lift and shift model to just execute within the ADF as it is the packages without implementing the logic within those packages. So
Okay.
yeah, and
So when it
if you
runs, sorry to interrupt, but when the package runs, it still updates the on-prem server, or it can update this Azure SQL DB.
it will require the Azure SQL DB as an configuration step. So that is
Okay,
the,
got it.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So everything will get executed there.
Right. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll go through mainly on the storage, processing, various services that we have, even the Azure Key Vault to store the keys related to the encryption. storage accounts, the data lake Gen 2, various options that we have as part of the Azure services. But like the main part, whenever you go for like any interview, if you are planning to move out of the job as well, the important part is explaining this life cycle. If you are just focusing on ADF, you are creating few pipelines, I'm moving this data to this, you don't know the purpose of the project, will not be useful. Meaning you need to understand like what type of data you are processing, what are the different types of sources. You need to explain that within the interview, like from where you are getting this data, what type of data it is, how much is the size of the data, how you are processing that data, what is happening to that data when that is moved to, let's say, SQL DB. From SQL DB, what is happening to that data? So if you explain this end-to-end life cycle, the interviewers will be very happy with that, and they will understand that you know each and every step as part of the data engineering or the whole data analytics or data science project. So this alerting part is also important. So we'll cover all these as part of this course. So that's what I want to give the demo for today. If you have any questions, we can discuss those.
So as part of this course, will we be able to create accounts on Azure and move forward with the account? Like as we proceed through all these steps, we will be carrying out all of these steps on an actual live Azure
Yes.
account.
Yes.
Okay.
So
And how are we going to get that account?
if you have the like Gmail ID as well, through that you can create the Microsoft account. And once there will be like free credits provided to you for certain amount of time, or like if you consume that, I think $100 or $250 something is there. So if you like start creating these services and consume those services for your learning purpose, based on the like time duration and the credits provided to you, though like once those are expired, you need to go with the next option as pay as you go option. So you can use those free credits for the limited duration, and you can play around these services.
Okay, so my free credit has already expired. Now what do I do?
No, you have to go with the pay you go option, pay as you go option. So where there are also free services available that you can use, and there will be very minimal charges depending on the uses. So let's say you want to learn Azure SQL DB something, you just create it for the same day and delete it. So you will save the cost.
And like, how does the cost look like if you create an Azure SQL DB? How much does it cost?
It will depend on the uses actually, like, or which tier, as I mentioned during this explanation, which there is a general purpose which has 2 GB of size and like small compute power actually. So that you can select for your just learning purpose. In actual
Okay.
implementation, you can select the different tier for the huge amount of data processing and the storage. So
All right, so
depending,
let's say if you select about 20 gigs of storage on the SQL DB, how much does it like? Is it a constant ongoing cost or it's like a one-time cost?
that will be like how much it will be constant in the sense mentioned to that specific, whatever we can say, the tier. And as you like keep increasing the data, it will increase the cost as well.
Okay, so
Let me see.
like let's say a DB you created is 20 gigs in size. How much would it cost you?
That will
Like,
be available on the portal, I
is it a
guess.
one-time cost or it's like a recurring cost every month?
Monthly cost.
Okay, monthly cost. So why do you need to create a 20 gig size when if your data is, let's say today it's 6 gigs of data, and in 2 years time it can grow to 20 gigs of data. So like if I buy 20 gigs now, the remaining uh, part will be wasted. Like
No, yeah,
remaining 14 gigs will be wasted. So
yeah. So they do not have that like 20 or 30. They have, I think, 100, 250 something. I'll just show that.
okay. So there is a minimum thing that you have to buy.
Yeah, whatever the options they have provided, that we'll have to use.
Okay.
So it's not like that straightforward. Like depending on
Okay.
exactly our needs or every customer's need.
Like you have to go with the minimum available, whatever is there.
Yeah, defined for that.
Yeah.
Can you see my portal?
Yes.
So here you will have the option to create the different resources, and from there you can select the virtual machines or the web applications or the Windows or the Linux servers, the data factory, the key vault. So that's
Right.
what each service will charge in a different way. The charging
Mm-hmm.
mechanism will be different. Also,
Mm-hmm.
one more thing we need to take into consideration is the location. So North Europe region will have different charges. The US region will have different charges. India region will have different charges. So it is basically dependent on the service as well as the location. So same mechanism will not
So
work
your
for,
service should be like when you are spinning up this thing, it has to be the nearest data center that is like, for example, if you are
yeah,
in
that
India
is,
location. Yeah.
yeah. So it again depends, yeah, as per the requirement. See,
Okay.
if here it says, did you know that the users can create free SQL database and for 12 months free account you can create. So yeah, here these compute and storage, these options are available. Let me just select a dummy option. See, here you have the location option.
Mm-hmm.
So based on the organization project need, you can select the required location. Or if there is no
Right.
specific requirement, you can select the like minimal cost option.
Okay. And then authentication method, right?
Yeah, and then you can create the local accounts as well.
Okay. All right. So, the idea for the question was, let's say, can can you do like a smaller size of machine today, like a smaller SQL DB today, and then later, like 2 years down the road, your need increases. Can you increase the size of your
Yes,
database later?
yes. That's
Okay,
the
so
benefit
then
of the cloud. Same for the virtual machines also.
while spinning it up, what is the need to go for a higher spec DB when you can still
That
select the
depends
lower
on
spec?
your data size and the compute that you need actually. So if you have like
Okay,
huge amount of data, that's what the role of data engineer will come into play.
I see.
You
Okay,
need to decide like what is your data size. See, this is a standard series, this general purpose. Here what it says compute plus storage.
right.
So you need to choose what type of performance you need and what type of storage you need. So
Okay.
here you can see the cost also.
How much is it? 29,000 INR per month. Okay.
Yeah, so this tier is different actually. It's general, most budget friendly. They are saying post serverless compute. Hardware configuration, if you see here, 128 V cores, 625 GB of memory. So as you change this one, based on that, the cost will change.
Okay, but that is quite large, like what you showed.
Yeah, so that's what like we have.
625 GB is pretty much it's quite a lot.
Yeah, that's what we need to select the cost optimized solutions for your project. So that's what we need to understand these various services and which one we need to use.
Okay. So this is a per month cost. If you just spin it up for one day and then you remove it or delete it, then your cost will be for single day or you
Yes,
will still be
single day,
charged for the whole day.
single day.
Okay.
Because if you see
Okay,
it is
awesome.
estimated cost.
Okay, got it. Mhm.
So if you already have SQL Server license that you are using for on-prem, that also you can use and save the cost.
Okay.
So these are the options, vCores, you can change it, the storage amount, and then you can, the cost will change accordingly.
Okay, now it's about 219,000. Wow, that's a
21,000,
lot.
2 lakh,
No,
2 lakh
219,000.
19,000, yeah.
Almost
So that's what,
220,000.
how you will change this configuration, that depending
Mm-hmm.
on that it will change.
Okay.
So it is mainly associated with this vCores, the storage size, and in these different types of configurations that are provided here. And the similar options will be available for the VMs as well. So you can change from any tier to any tier. See, in some cases, it will compute cost will come into play. So various types of cost models are like designed by Microsoft. So depending on that uses, again, the cost
What is
will.
this serverless? This is like hard. This is very less, right? Like compared to like almost 30,000 INR compared to 6,000 INR.
So
What's the
serverless
difference
is,
between the two?
it will be automatically scaled actually. You do not need to manage it.
Then why do we need to? So what's the benefit of going with provision versus serverless? Like I would always want to select serverless in this case.
That again depends on the project requirement, which type of data, how much amount of data is coming. Let's say it's fixed data. Why you would go with the serverless? You know the size of the data, you know the uses of the, how frequently you are going to access it. Why you will
Okay.
need the serverless if your data size is not moving?
Data
Let
size will always be moving. It will always be growing.
It can be one-time copy activity to Azure SQL DB also. Let's say you do not want to change your on-prem structure into the cloud. You just want to copy from on-prem to the cloud and use it, let's say, for the web application.
Mhm.
So that's what the various combinations of the scenarios will come into play. And as a data engineer, we need to decide which service to
Yeah.
use, how to use it, where to store the data, how to process that data, and then resolve the issues also, like everything, once everything is set up.
Yeah, so it seems like there are two fronts to it. Like one very important front is to first be able to decide which is the right choice to make
Yes.
because there are so many choices available.
Yeah.
And then the second part is learn how to manipulate data and the ingestion parts.
Yeah, ingestion processing part, yes.
Yeah. All
Storage,
right. Thank you.
ingestion, processing, yeah. Reporting, monitoring.
Mhm.
And then every service will have its own pros and cons. So that also we need to understand, or the limitations will be there from the Microsoft side as well. So let's say some of the things which are working fine in on-prem may not work in the cloud. That can also
Oh,
happen. So
okay.
so
Yeah,
you
but how do we understand that? This is like
no,
complex then.
yeah, that's how the complexity will grow, and you will understand during the execution of these things.
Okay.
Sometimes
All
there will
right.
be issue
New
with
word.
the data type mismatch. That also issues will come during the data copy activities.
Okay. All
Hello.
right. So this class will be conducted every day, 5 days a week, same time. Is that correct?
Yes, Ganesh, what time we are suggesting? I can be available like in the morning 10 to 11:30, or you want in the like this 9 to 10 evening slot.
Uh, like it depends on the rest of the folks. I'm fine with this time.
Yeah, someone is having the query.
Yeah, hi Yogesh. Just one thing. So, for example, let's say I've created this server and I just used it for 1 day and deleted. So it will be just cost for 1 day, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And like for creating this account, do I need to like use credit or debit card as well, or just Gmail is fine?
Yeah, that is for registration, you will need the credit card, but it won't get deducted until you move from the free to pay as you go option.
Okay, that's fine. And also like for the Databricks, you have said that we would be using Python and PySpark and everything. So as part of this course, will you be like teaching us any of the stuff?
Yeah, I will just show the basics, like how the data can be processed within the Databricks.
Okay.
Means that can be explored again, on huge scale, the language part, because again it will go into a different direction as part of the course. What mainly we will look at is the various Azure services as part
Mhm.
of the data engineering course, or the certification if you want to achieve that one. So basically,
So
like
after
we,
taking this course, will we be able to apply these technologies and make use of them?
yes,
So
the
I will be
important
able to
part,
use ADF and
yes,
migrate data from on-prem to an Azure SQL DB. Is
yes,
that correct?
yes,
All right. And then will I be also able to manipulate data in Databricks to some extent? Obviously, more
yeah,
comes with
basics,
time.
yeah.
Basics, yeah. All right. Yeah, a good overview is good enough to get started. So, and what is this Azure Synapse Analytics? Will we be touching this or no?
Yes, so whatever will be the part of the data engineering will touch base with that. So
Okay.
mainly, the another experience that I will share is like just certification is just to show actually the capabilities. But if you explain the things that I mentioned in this demo, let's the end-to-end data life cycle, and you explain the concepts of the data processing in the interview, is fine actually. The certification is just for your reference, like you just take it for your understanding purpose. Actual thing which is required in the market is the person who is playing with these services, implementing the solutions. If you just
Right,
do the certifications and you are not capable of doing the implementation, that is not like the good thing.
right. Yeah, we need to be able to work on it, and that is
Yeah, so
what the
yeah, you
objective of
need
the
to
course is.
practice it. Yeah. So I will be showing the
Understood.
sample things, like for example, how you can copy data from on-prem to cloud, or how you can use the various connectors within it. That prototyping or templates I will be showing, you can practice it. So it's more of practice thing.
So let's say we practice it and we get back with questions. Would you be able to cater to those questions?
Yes.
any real-time project you'll be showing us as part of this?
As such, I don't have, but I need to create it or whatever will follow the flow. Let's say, as I mentioned, if I want to copy the on-prem files to the Azure SQL DB, that can be considered as a real-time project. So specifically creating that will be difficult, like end-to-end thing.
Like at least you can explain us, right?
Yeah, I will explain like how you will use the main thing, as I mentioned, types of data and the sources of data.
Okay.
How you will ingest it, where you will ingest it, how you will process it. That is the important part.
And after
So
this
here
course,
in this, yeah, please go ahead. Sorry.
after this course, how many years of experience can we put? Like if we want to show that we worked on these services?
2 to 3 years you can show it.
Okay.
You just need to get hands-on on this actually,
Mhm.
on the Azure platform.
Okay. Like
So here
mostly, I
you are
think we will
showing.
be sorry. Go ahead.
Please go ahead. No, your
Yeah. So
question is different.
mostly,
Mine is.
like I think we will be using mostly Data Factory and Databricks, right? Like as
Yeah, in the market also mainly Data Factory is used and the Databricks is
so
used.
can we use can we keep like I only worked on Data Factory or Databricks rather than whole?
Yeah, you can mention that. Yeah.
Okay, fine, thanks.
What you can mention in the interview, I also know these other services, but in my project, I mainly used on these two services.
Okay, yeah.
That you can, because in every project, everything will not be used.
Yeah.
So it's the purpose of the course is to making sure that you know everything, whatever available in the cloud, and how you will be using it. So again, based on the project requirement, then you will choose the required services.
Yeah, fine.
So, sorry, one last question. Like here, you mentioned these 6 things, but where is the Azure storage in here? There is one data factory, Synapse Analytics, where it doesn't talk about. It
No,
only talks about data lake storage.
yeah, this is the guide from the Microsoft exam preparation. So I will cover that in my course actually. It is there, the detailed syllabus. I think if you go through it, it will be there, the
Okay,
learning
so
part.
storage will be there.
Yeah,
And in storage, when we talk about Azure SQL DB, what about analysis processing? Where does that fit in?
analysis processing within the SQL database.
Yeah. So sometimes, when the OLTP, you create an OLAP database on top of that, or data warehouse.
That will be part of Synapse Analytics. So the
Okay,
data,
Synapse Analytics.
so they renamed the
OLAP.
data warehouse to Synapse actually.
Okay. So analysis service will be different.
Yeah, that is Synapse Analytics. The data warehouse, what you are saying is not part of the Azure
The
SQL.
tabular models, all the multidimensional models I'm talking about, the cubes.
Yeah, that's the reason they created this Synapse Analytics.
Okay.
And new
So
thing is
Synapse
coming,
Analytics replaces the
data warehouse.
data warehouse.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the reason, like we need to learn different types of services and combinations, and depending on the
This
use
is like,
case.
yeah, really complex. Because in Power BI they launched Fabric, and Fabric talks about data warehouse, data pipelines, data mart,
Yeah, that's what
and then data flows. So there
yeah, I
is
was
so
about
much in
to
there.
say. No, what they have done, they clubbed everything in the single new service Fabric.
So I mean, they appear to be two similar services. All this here and Fabric services there. They seem to address the same usage. The only difference is that is available on the Fabric capacity or Power BI infrastructure, whereas this is on
These are like
it
as a
has.
platform as a service, PaaS service. And what Fabric they have created a new service is a SaaS model. You do not need to do
Yeah, SaaS
anything.
model.
You do not need to do anything. So also that is not available to use for the um, like outside of the organization. It is only available that service to the organizations only, this Microsoft Fabric, which is in
Yeah.
preview mode. So
Yeah,
you
so
need
it is
the
still in preview
organization
mode.
account. Yeah.
Obviously, like every one of us is working for an organization and we have some sort of fabric capacity available, like SP for 59 days, but after that,
Yeah.
I think it will become paid.
Yes.
So there will be a separate license for it then.
Yeah, the costing model will be different for it. So it's a new service. So we do not also know how it will work in terms of like until and unless we use it, and we sometimes we see the sudden charges also for any specific service.
Yeah.
So that can also happen. So we need to monitor, and if it is wrongly charged, we need to raise a support case with Microsoft and get that refunded. That kind of work also we'll have to do.
It's so complicated now.
No, that's the reason there is importance or demand in the market for the data engineering role.
Yeah. And so will you be touch base on networking too, like connecting the servers or gateways and all that, because that also becomes an issue.
Yeah, so that role is mainly part of the administrator. So assigning the access within the Azure Active Directory part, the AAD which manages the access control to the all the services that will be created or already created. So the access to the users will be managed by the administrator, defined by the policies within your organization through the Azure Active Directory. And
Okay.
the networking part also will be managed by the administrator. So there is different certification 104 for that.
Mhm.
That will be purely the administrator part of the whole portal, like who will access what, how they will. You can also control the access of the databases or storage accounts by IP address. So if you are only in office, then only you can like launch the portal and access it. So outside of the organization. So it depends again how you want to set it up.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll come back on the timings then, Ganesh. Ganesh, are you there?
Yes, Yogesh. Yeah, I'll talk to each and every person. And normally, like, what is your availability, Yogesh? The mornings and evenings.
Morning 10 to 11:30 I'm available, and yeah, evening we can have this 9 after 9.
Okay, got it. So, any other availability of yours? So, you're fine with the timings, right? Or we can go for the mornings or evenings. Maybe IST mornings or IST evenings. So, let me talk to like each one of you personally. Then we can decide.
Sure. Okay.
Most we can start the training from Monday, coming Monday. That I mean after 2 days.
Yeah, once we finalize the timing, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Then by Sunday end of the day, I'll update to everyone. I'll create a WhatsApp group as well. Then we can start accordingly.
Sure. Okay.
Arun, Jaipal, Nabia, from your end.
Sure, Ganesh. Thank you.
Arun, do you have any questions?
No, that's it. Thanks, Yogesh, and thanks, Ganesh.
And Jaipal?
Yeah.
Jaipal, do you have any questions? Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Yogesh,
Good
thank you.
night. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.